Awesome. So Paul from Agosto's going to make his way up. Then we'll have Enstratus, which just got acquired by Dell Software recently. And then we'll close with Model Metrics, which got acquired by Salesforce. And so he's come wearing the gift that at least I'm hoping to get for Christmas someday. Just as I told you earlier, I can't wear it in the casino floor. But Agosto, if you don't know, the 9th largest partner of Google, based in the Ford Building, downtown Minneapolis. I've had the pleasure of meeting the founders and being at one of their viewing parties. It was the first time I really geeked out and actually watched with a bunch of people, and seeing someone cheer for geofencing like they've never done anything before was an awesome experience.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, Glass, take a picture. There we go. So yeah, I've got my Google Glass at I/O this year, and I think it's a really interesting example of what Google is doing in a lot of places. Whether you take Google Glass or here's the Chrome Pixel, you guys probably heard of this. You know, most people say, what is Google doing? You know, they've got a high-end laptop, sells for $1,200, about the price of a really nice Mac, and it's a Chrome-only device, which means, you know, I sign into the internet, I can't download, I can't run programs on it. Why would I spend the money on that? And same with Glass. A lot of people are with Google are saying, well, it's not going to work. It looks weird. It has all kinds of problems. It could never work in the enterprise. And then think about the driverless car. You know, another example of what Google's working on. I guess I'm placing a big bet that Google is going to be have a big part in this whole scalable cloud infrastructure world, which is why we've kind of dove in head first. So let me grab my clicker. So I'm Paul Lundberg. I'm the Director of Development at Agosto. And I've been working on Google's platform for about 3 years now. Let's see if I can. So Agosto started in the managed services space, serving customers, outsourced IT. And we started to get very interested in Google in 2007 when we saw an opportunity to take some of our customers to Google Apps and the collaboration suite that they have. And so back in 2007, Google Apps was very early on, and most people thought it was crazy to move your enterprise email and collaboration tools and that kind of thing to Google. And that's changed a lot in the last many years to the point where that's a very mature part of our business now. So we do many deployments a month for Google Apps. We have thousands of seats under management, and the focus on the platform is going a little bit away from mail and calendar to really more of what we can do with document collaboration and some of the other tools that are in that suite. Then about 2 years ago, we started to think about Google's cloud platform when they announced Google App Engine. And Google App Engine is Google's platform as a service offering. And back when they announced that a couple of years ago, you know, people really thought that was nuts because, you know, today we're talking a lot about how infrastructure as a service is just kind of coming around and people are understanding that and that's where the market is. Well, think about 2 years ago when you come out and start making announcements about platform as a service without having an infrastructure as a service offering even. Google about a little over a year ago announced their infrastructure as a service offering. So they've started releasing things kind of from the top of their stack, and now they're making some things available in infrastructure as a service, mostly for large-scale computing. They're taking a little bit different angle than the Amazons of the world or other types of providers in infrastructure as a service, which is also a very interesting space. Just quickly, some other things we're into as well would be around Google Search Appliance. That's one of the first products that Google made available. And then Google Search and Geo, also very big pieces of that outside of the appliance. So 100 billion queries a month on Google's platform just for Google.com, you know, and it kind of goes to show where Google's at. They're dealing with problems that are 5 years ahead of what most enterprises are dealing with, which is why I think it's very interesting to follow what they're doing. The same could be said around the big data type problems and the technologies around that. They were doing Hadoop many years ago and have released that now. It's become open source and it's being used by many enterprises. They've moved on. They're many years ahead with their Dremel technology and what they're doing today. And they're starting to make some of that available now in their cloud platform offerings as well. So you've got an infrastructure that has hundreds of millions of users. They're the third largest server manufacturer in the world, and they don't sell servers, which is kind of an amazing stat. And they have the second largest IP network. So some other quick stats, just to give you a sense of the scale that they're dealing with. 72 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. 100 million gigabytes is the size of the search index, the caffeine search index. 425 million users active on Gmail. And a quarter of a second response time on a Google search query. And I swear it's sometimes a lot faster than that. So anyway, the point of all this, Google definitely thinks ahead. They're not that concerned about some of the offerings that they have and whether they're relevant today, ready exactly for the market today, but they're planting seeds. And when you look at why they're doing Chromebook, when you look at why they're doing Google Glass and these kind of technologies, it's because it's going to be a very significant part of the future. Maybe not exactly as we see it today, but it's going to be significant. So I'm going to narrow down into just cloud platform just for a little bit. And this is where I mentioned that Google started this by releasing App Engine as the first platform as a service offering back 2 years ago now. Or it was previewed in 2008, and they've been making it more available here. Last year it went GA. Compute Engine fits under the Google Cloud Platform umbrella as well. Preview for that was a year ago when they announced that at I/O. That's being opened up now, and anyone can really use the platform today. And then there's lots of other services and APIs that they're opening up. Google Cloud Storage and Blob Storage and lots of lower level technical type APIs that are really useful as someone that builds products that you can leverage rather than having to build a lot of these kinds of things. APIs like maps and prediction and some of the various search type APIs they have are really useful. So I wanted to just give you a sense for the type of solutions that we're working with customers on today. And what I've done is just kind of taken and consolidated some real-world clients and examples into what is kind of a generic case study, and just talk about some of the attributes and why, for me, it's really important that I'm on a platform like Google Cloud Platform. So for one, we're after problems that really belong on Google's platform, which means we're after lots of data coming into the system, lots of processing going on, perhaps lots of storage. We're after the type of solutions that really fit Google's platform well. And I mentioned that my group has started with a focus around Google App Engine as the core of the solution, which means platform as a service. And we are out doing a lot of evangelizing in large enterprises today. They get it when we spend time describing it. They're not sure if they should go there yet. I think Tom just said infrastructure as a service is a lot more comfortable right now. I get that. I've got servers. I can move them. That makes a lot of sense. But as Tom also said, I think, is that platform as a service is where we're going. And my biggest problem as a technologist is that as soon as something is starting to become mainstream, I've moved on. And so throughout my career, I found I'm always evangelizing the next thing because I just couldn't do that stuff anymore. It's just too exciting here being in the platform as a service space and looking at the kinds of problems we're able to solve with the technology. So, so just as an example, a device manufacturer, this is kind of a common theme that we're finding, that has a lot of data coming from a lot of places that's going into some kind of a back office. And we're finding that there's a real opportunity with companies that have these back offices today because a lot of times they're still on-premise systems. And so they're very limited in terms of what they can do. And just as some examples, when they go and talk about their hardware devices in the corresponding back office, and they talk about setting up a trial, well, that means they have to not only deploy devices, but they have to deploy actual servers in that and set those up to conduct even a trial of their product. And there's a complex installation process that involves hardware, and there's upgrades, and there's all of that, and kind of a lot of the reasons people go to the cloud with some of these types of solutions. The other thing is that there's just things they're not even thinking about yet. They're very limited because of the way they've deployed their back office in terms of how and what they can do with analytics. And the other thing is that they've got all their tenants running independently because they're all running on their own gear and all these various locations. So the data is all over the place in different places. So there's no opportunity to really do anything with the data. And then scalability is, a huge problem for them. They don't quite know when they're going to hit the bump where the system just kind of comes to a crawl. They've got a lot of functions and features that they don't even run during operational hours because it just kind of taxes the system and everything slows down and they start missing events from their devices and things like that. In the new world that we're talking about, we just don't have any issues with that. So going to the cloud, obvious things were, limiting server instances. We're able to set up multi-tenant installations in different geographies. So for example, we can set up an instance, multi-tenant instance in the United States and in Europe, other places in the world, and be able to run those independently. We can have a separate installation for trials and demonstrations. And like setting up a new installation of these is a 1 day or less kind of effort. We're not talking about any big setup process. It's really kind of amazing how quickly you can set up and tear down these infrastructures. So these are some of the common reasons. Multi-version support. We can have different versions of our app running in direct traffic and do all those kinds of things very easily. And really, if you look at the graph, I mean, what App Engine is amazing at is if you look at that green line where it says above the graph. In the traditional world, you're trying to guess where the line is so that you've got the amount of capacity you need. And what's really great when we're out selling solutions and talking about scaling with customers is that, if we build our application right, that green line is somewhere way off the chart at a place where we don't even need to talk about it. And that's where when we can bring Google into the picture and have them talk about the kinds of things, the payloads, the workloads that they're dealing with, that's very convincing, that what you guys are doing, no matter how big of a problem we can find, it's pretty small in terms of what Google's dealing with. The other thing that's important is to be able to tell customers that platform as a service is really where Google's at in terms of how they're deploying services today. So they're not deploying in their infrastructure as a service environment when you talk about all the different offerings and APIs that they have. Everything is being built today on platform as a service with the same technology that we're using. And they've actually been making a big effort over the last year or two to start to really make sure that the technology they're making available to us is the same technology they're using. When they started releasing this stuff, there were kind of different versions of stuff we use, of stuff we make available for the customer. And they've really had a focus on making sure that we're all using the same technology. So then the big thing and the really fun part about this for me has been really the game-changing possibilities. That once you're on this platform and you have a truly scalable product or solution, looking at some of the things that you can do with that. So one really exciting thing has been around real-time analytics. So because of the processing and the capabilities we have available to us in real time, we're able, instead of just doing and making available kind of the big query, more historical analytics, we're able to do a lot of real-time analytics. So we're able to take in data streams and build graphs basically as we go and be able to answer and alert on things that are happening in the system And just with the storage available and with the processing available, we're able to do that where we have just never been able to do that on any other type of platform before. So it's just very interesting to be working on solving problems with real-time analytics. And then the BigQuery analytics, the really fun part about that and useful part about that is just how simple it is to use when it's brought down to kind of an API level. So, for example, my team doesn't have a long history in data analytics, but understanding the problem and with the tools available, we're able to do some pretty amazing things with big data type queries on their platform, which is using the latest technology that Google has available today. Same technology they're using for their own purposes. And then I mentioned that, being able to set up these instances. That's a real game changer for the organizations we're working with, to be able to start, let's say, in the U.S. and then very easily and for really very little cost to be able to set up an entirely different environment in Europe. The other thing we're doing is because of the scale and the capabilities of Google, we're able to simulate devices. So now when we go out, the goal is with a lot of these customers is to go out and have a sales call when they have a very qualified prospect. We'll just set them up with an instance of the application, and we'll have a simulator simulating device traffic. So they have their own tenant, their own instance where they can really just go in and use the system just as they would if they had set it all up for real. And it's like a trial, but when you're dealing with products that involve a large ingestion of data, that's a hard thing to typically set up on a trial basis. But with the capabilities of the platform and with a simulator, we're able to do that, and it's a very effective sales tool. And then last, once we've gotten through the core requirements of a solution, we're able to really look and draw from all the other pieces and parts and capabilities that are within Google's infrastructure. Things like their prediction API. And one thing I really didn't talk about is that I mentioned we start with a core being platform as a service. We have had cases where we've got some kind of a service that can't run on App Engine, and we're able to set up compute engine instances and run that on more of a traditional Linux environment, which is really great. So it's kind of all within the ecosystem and managed together. And we're able to take care of some of those types of problems with other capabilities within the platform. So anyway, exciting to be able to talk with you today about Google and where they're heading. If you're interested, I'd love to chat more about it. So thank you. Thanks, Andy.
So he did bring the glass, and he's expecting to have people come over and want to check it out, so please feel free to do that. I wanted to say thanks again for your help with this event. I know some of you are here thanks to their invitation, so thank you very much. Videos. All right. So thank you for being a part of the inaugural BigCloud event in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We'll see you next year in March. To all of you, thank you. To our sponsors, thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.